All right, the presidential town
And
hall
here we
is
are,
slated
just
to
moments
begin,
away.
ladies and gentlemen. I
is
cannot
right now.
wait for
Walking.
undecided questions, dude. Undecided panelist selector is like a specific pit of hell. Like, I think they bring out Frank Luntz or any number of these different specialists from a unique place that normal humans cannot live in to find truly some of the weirdest fucking people of all time. Actually, I'm quite undecided on Kamala Harris's defense of Israel. I feel like she has not defended Israel hard enough, in my estimation. What do you have to say to this, Kamala Harris? It's always like that. It's always like, will Kamala Harris allow Iran to be nuked in a nuclear first strike by Israel? It's like, how? How are you this person? How is this even like confusing for you? Bet not a single Gaza question? No, the fucking Gaza question would be straight up. The Gaza question would be straight up just like, Kamala Harris, why are you not allowing population transfer to occur in Gaza? Are you anti-Semitic? That's going to be the fucking question. I'm an undecided voter, and I was wondering when the Georgian invitation for NATO was going to finalize. I would like to know that. Hello, I'm an undecided voter, and I was really worried about the Chinese military drills that have been occurring around Taiwan. What will Kamala Harris do to nuclear first strike CCP and China to ensure that Taiwan takes over its rightful claim over mainland China, as once predicted by Chiang Kai-shek? These are my undecided voter guys that I'm inventing at every single. I'm inventing them. I'm inventing them, and there are Ryan Ruths all around for those with eyes to see.
A group of 32 Pennsylvania voters say they are still undecided or persuadable. All of them are registered.
Oh man, these are some great.
There you go.
Yeah.
I called it. Oh, she got the IDF dog tag and the yellow ribbon. She's gonna stand up and be like, "I'm still." I feel like your loyalty to Israel is questioned.
Yeah,
I haven't been able to get a good assessment.
Those are perfect undecided voters.
Yeah,
some real grade A f***ing dopes. And then an Israel lady. That's perfect.
Israel lady that definitely is voting for Trump and has voted for Trump and will do it again, and being like, when will you allow population transfer to occur in the Gaza Strip?
Have you seen that? Have you seen that Trump PAC ad where it's like a bunch of like clearly like Anglo ladies, and they're like, "Oy vey, I had another Jewish day. You know, I don't like Trump, but Kamala's gonna kill all." It's the best ad I've ever
I can't
seen.
wait for an undecided voter to be like, how will you address campus anti-Semitism?
Yeah.
That's my favorite undecided voter.
You've been calling Donald Trump unstable, unhinged. You've called him dangerous. You've quoted General Milley recently, who called him a fascist. Today, you quoted General Kelly, who said that Trump repeatedly praised Hitler. Yeah. But there are tens of millions of Americans right now
who also praise Hitler.
Those things, and they don't buy it. Or
what do you say to them?
If you're going to ask her about Israel, you might as well be like, "Are you alienating Hitler supporters?"
13 days to go. What do you say to those voters to convince them? Because some of them are in this room.
Sure, and I thank you all for taking the time to be here.
I prosecuted transnational
gangs. You could be doing a number of other things with your time. So this really is proof that we love our country. People are engaged, Anderson, and really want to talk about the issues. And so the issue that you raise, yes, I do believe that Donald Trump is unstable, increasingly unstable, and unfit to serve. And I don't necessarily think that everyone has heard what you and I have heard repeatedly, which is the people who know Donald Trump best, the people who worked with him in the White House, in the Situation Room, in the Oval Office, all Republicans, by the way, who served in his administration, his former chief of staff, his national
we'll look at it later.
security advisor, former secretaries of defense, and his vice president have all called him unfit and dangerous. They have said explicitly he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States.
All right. This isn't a policy question.
They have said he should never again serve as president of the United States. We know that.
I don't know anything
Mike
about
Pence is not
hair
with him
designs.
again. Why the job was empty.
Are Kamala's
And then
highlights
today we
natural?
learned that John Kelly, a
Because I've seen some
four-star
pretty
Marine
bold
general,
natural highlights
who was
in my
his
life.
longest serving
Believe me.
chief of staff,
No?
Gave an interview recently in the last 2 weeks of this election, talking about how dangerous Donald Trump is. And I think one has to think about, why would
I have seen some like really bold natural highlights in my life.
Why is he telling
my brother is like very dark
and frankly,
hair,
I think of
like
it
as
he's just putting out a 911 call to the American
people. But then it gets
people.
kind of an auburn red highlight
Understand what
in the
could
summer.
happen if Donald Trump were back in the White House. And this time, we must take very seriously those
how
folks
else
who
am I supposed to learn
and who are career
if not for asking questions about
are
this?
not going to be there to hold him back. At least before, there were folks who we know what he would say, but they would restrain him. Imagine now Donald Trump in the Oval Office, in the Situation Room. He who has openly admired dictators, said he would be a dictator on day one. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has said he is a fascist to the core.
You know, I think the worst thing that ever happened to Trump electorally
reflect, especially those who are undecided.
People finding
who you should listen to. Don't
seeing
take
it as a
my
known
word for it.
quantity.
In fact, go online and listen to John Kelly, his voice, talking about what he thinks of Donald Trump 2 weeks before the election. Because
electorally, it was very bad for people to know that Donald Trump is a known quantity. But it's also kind of bad for this type of campaign posture where you're, placing him as unique danger. And you could argue from the liberal perspective there are unique, dumbass things he did that no one else did. Sure. But it's kind of harder to sell it to Americans after they've seen him, and a lot of Americans' disappointments in him were that, and this is not a value judgment, they thought he was going to be like an outsider or radical centrist, and he was just a regular Republican. It sort of like decouples him from the things that voters don't like about him the most.
These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military, who are highly respected. Talking about,
does this move anyone?
Who would be commander-in-chief.
Anyone who has like parents out there
what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military.
What would you call them?
Mitt
Romney Republicans, are they into this?
How he
because I don't know. I don't know anyone like that. I could be wrong.
Taken an oath to sacrifice their life for our country. And I do believe, Anderson, that part of this is why, even just this week,
don't let anyone
this state
who was born in 1960 and signed up for the military as an officer
Republican. She has endorsed
in 1980
her father, the former
be like, oh, I'm ready to die for America. Where? In Grenada?
Members
Fat
of
chance,
previous
bub.
members of the administration from Ronald Reagan to both
I just don't buy it.
Bush to Donald Trump even have endorsed my candidacy. And the reason why among them is a legitimate fear based on Donald Trump's words and actions that he will not obey
everyone you don't like, all the career politicians and
of the United States.
fucking everyone,
himself has said he would
they're all with me against Donald Trump because he's so dangerous and outsidery.
And earn your vote to stand again behind the seal of the President of the United States? No one standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America should be in that position saying they want to terminate the Constitution of the United States.
Let's get to some of our voters. I want you to meet a registered Republican who's very concerned about Trump's views on democracy and January 6th. She told us she's looking for a reason to vote for you, but is yet to make her final decision. Her name is Natasha Kwiatkowski. She's a student at Bryn Mawr College.
Subtitles.
What's your question, Natasha?
If they were, I would turn them on.
Here, and thank you for taking my question.
Thank you, Natasha.
And as someone who hasn't fully committed to either party, how do you plan to address the concerns of independent voters and anti-Trump Republicans like myself who feel left out of the polarized political landscape? And what specific actions would you take to bridge the political divide and create more unity?
That's enough.
That's a wonderful question.
I love Bradley.
God,
he's such a fucking ape.
Be a president for all Americans. And I think
was he the guy who like smacked Ronaldo?
People are
I support Ronaldo
frankly
on that.
exhausted
I think it's mean to take someone's
with
hat, but
what
come
has
on.
been happening over the last several years, which is this environment that is suggesting that Americans should be pointing fingers at one another, that we are divided as a nation, instead of what I think you and I will speak for us, I think.
What specific actions would you take to bridge the political divide and create more unity is such an awesome nothing burger question.
For like,
the American
so this is a
people
student at
deserve
Bryn
to have
Mawr.
a president
Presumably
who is
she's in
grounded
like
in what
her
is
early
common
20s.
sense, what is
You're so
practical,
f***ed up if you're like
and what is in
21
the
and you're
best
like,
interest of
how are you
people,
gonna
not themselves.
bridge the divide?
I started my career as a prosecutor.
Oh!
And I will tell you,
Take a shot.
I never in most of my career was outside of Washington, D.C., by the way. Only 4 years when I was in the Senate were in Washington, other than being vice president. I have never in my career as a prosecutor asked a victim or a witness of a crime, are you a Democrat or a Republican? The only thing I've ever asked is, are you
How can I help? Are you okay?
And I do believe that is what the American people
She
deserve.
thinks that's
in
like a
their
JFK bar,
Yeah,
by the way.
like no one.
It sucks so bad.
No one
or what
like
is in their personal
thinks that
interest.
anyone
And I
does
reference that
like-
because, as we know,
No,
it has been
I'm a career nurse, and I always ask, are you a Republican or a Democrat before administering first aid?
how those areas,
I make every victim
people
of
who
every
have been
crime take a woke
traumatized by
test.
extreme weather would get relief. He asked the question, did they vote for him? I believe the American people deserve better. And they deserve a president who is focused on solutions, not sitting in the Oval Office.
You will never
plotting
convince me
their
that
revenge
genuine,
and
real people care
retribution.
about like a president saying this shit.
Yeah,
Like I just want to hear like what kind of how much money are you going to give me? Like
himself as an independent.
This
he says
is
he's undecided. Eric.
Could be
Thank you,
a
Anderson. Thank
weapons
you
grade
both for being here.
dope.
So my question is concerning
He's gonna
groceries.
ask her about
Grocery
Hot
prices
Wheels.
have gone up quite a bit in the last 4 years. And some people blame
Excuse me,
former
that's an
President
IT
Trump.
manager. You
Some
better-
people blame
I'm
President
sorry.
Biden. Who would you say is correct? And what would you do to bring prices down for Americans?
Okay,
Thank
that's
you,
not that
Eric,
bad
and
of a
you're absolutely
question.
right. You know it. I know it. I think most Americans know it. Price of groceries is still too high. And we need to address it in a number of ways. One of my aspects of
Say
doing
you're gonna
what we
fucking
need to do
combat
to bring
price
down
gouging.
the cost of living for working people and the middle class in America is to address the issue of grocery prices. Part of my background and how I come to it is probably a new approach grounded in a lot of my experiences as a former attorney general, where I took on price gouging. And part of my plan
Let's
is
go.
to create a new approach that is
only
the
thing
first
that
time
tracks
that we will
well
have
with
a
the
national
general public.
ban
That
on
and
price
like expanding
gouging,
Medicare for
which is
at-home care.
companies
I think you're forgetting about
taking
our
advantage
signature
of the
policy.
desperation and need
Pell
of the
Grants
American
for
consumer,
people
who-
and jacking up prices
for Amber
without
Frost.
any consequence or accountability.
I hate that so
So
much.
that is one way, but
It's
to your
like
point,
her
Eric,
worst
there are,
received
you know,
policy,
there
by
are
the
a
way.
number of
And
issues
she
that we
still
need to
says
address
it
in terms of
every
bringing
time.
down the cost of
Closest thing
living.
she has
It
to a
includes
signature
what we need is
policy.
really
Yeah.
a new approach that I bring to the issue of affordable housing.
I took on
Including, for
transnational
example,
pricing
rent.
gangs.
And again, I'm my experience, knowing what has been happening in terms of how corporations have been buying up blocks
Yeah,
of
she
property
flipped Pete and she's
to
paying
diminish
him as a criminal
competition,
informant.
Yeah.
and then rents get jacked up.
He's
and
wearing
addressing
a
that.
wire
By
to,
the way,
to bread
making
pricing
sure that
She
there's
is
a
low
consequence
key
and
actually fucking
accountability for
talking
that,
about some of the
but
initiatives
also
of the Biden
investing in
administration,
people's
and I'm very
dreams of home
frustrated that it took
ownership.
this long for her to
You know,
get to this.
knowing that for too long,
Like, this is
frankly,
good
both
shit if you wanna win an
administrations, I mean,
election. She
both
should have been doing this
administrations and
from
both
day
parties,
one.
Democrats and Republicans haven't done enough to deal with the issue of housing. And we need a
Do you
a
think
new
she's
approach
going
that
to
includes
shit can Lena
working
Khan?
with the
I kind
private
of think so.
sector.
I kind of
say
see it in
that
the
as
cards if
as
she wins.
As a devout
We'll
public
see.
servant,
I mean, why
working with the
shouldn't
private
she?
sector
You know?
to cut through the red tape.
It's just
working
like
with home
I don't
builders,
think that you can have a
working
White
with
House where like
developers
Tony
to
West
create tax
is one of the
incentives
closest
so
people
that
to
we
the
can
president,
create more
Yeah.
housing
and you
supply
keep
and bring
Lena
down
Khan. I
prices.
just
Let
don't
me
think that
ask you about price
happens.
gouging. I looked at your plan.
You don't understand.
You talk about going after price gougers.
Tony-
I'm quoting from
Tony
the
West,
plan, on essential
Tony
goods
West wants to
during
take,
emergencies
all
or
of the
times
other-
crisis. I get
He
that.
wants
How
all
does
of the
that
other
help for someone
monopolies to
like
be
Eric
destroyed
with
so that
prices
Uber can
that
be the
for
only
years
monopoly.
Yeah.
prices have just
Yeah.
been high.
Well, first of all, Anderson, as you know, and obviously CNN has been covering extensively what has been happening in the state of Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. It's a real issue. I was Attorney General of California. I
Oh
was the
my
top law
God.
enforcement officer of the biggest state in the country. I took this issue on because it affects a lot of people. And I'm not going to apologize for the fact that we need to actually deal with accountability when these, not all, in fact, most don't, but when companies are taking advantage of the desperation and the need of the
That's one of
American
the
people. We
best
saw it
Democratic
actually during the
sentences I've ever
pandemic as
heard.
well,
I'm not going to
where
apologize
because
for
of
the
supply
fact that
chain
we need
issues,
accountability.
there was a reduction of supply.
I
and
want
then
that
they would
tattooed on my
inflate
back. That's
the
fucking
price
awesome.
Of everyday necessities.
look,
Not to mention,
I'll be
by the
fair.
way,
I'm going to be
again,
fair.
Donald Trump
I'm
should be
calling
here
balls and strikes.
tonight
This
to
is
talk with you and answer your questions.
obviously
He's
not
refused
very
to
well
come.
delivered, but this is a
But
good
understand that
message.
part of
And
his
it actually
plan
performs well
is to put in place
as well.
a national
It's
sales
better than
tax
what I
of at least
usually see from her
20%
in this,
on
you know, in the
everyday
last
goods and necessities.
like
And
6
that,
to 8
by
weeks, I would say.
economist
Sure.
Estimates, independent economist, would cost you as the American consumer and taxpayer
Oh no!
an additional
Now she's going back to Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
She's going to say
Yeah.
Goldman
I mean,
Sachs
Carol
likes mine.
Mackinoff,
Oh, she didn't
a
say it.
political
Thank
science
God Anderson
professor at
Cooper cut
Swarthmore
her
College.
off.
She's a registered Democrat who says she's leaning toward voting for you, has yet to make her final decision. Carol?
Hi, Carol. Thank
Good
you.
evening. Thank
Good
you for visiting us in Delaware County, Vice President Harris. My question is this. If you could accomplish only one major policy goal that required congressional action, what would it be and why?
That's actually a pretty good question.
Well, she's a
No,
poli sci
just
Yeah.
I
professor.
have to be honest
Yeah.
with you, Carol. There's a lot of work that needs to happen, but let's. I think that maybe part of
And she's not
this
going to answer
point
this.
that how I think
No
about
fucking
it
shot.
is we've got to get past this era of politics and partisan politics.
Oh my God.
Slowing down what we need to do in terms of progress in our country, and that means
What's your
working
number
across
one
the aisle.
priority if you could
I've
pass
done that
it
before. We did it
legislatively?
around whether it be what we
We
were
have to get
able
rid of
accomplish with the
politics.
bipartisan infrastructure deal, or some
I'm
of
gonna.
the work that
I'm
we
Brian
have done in
Kilmeade.
terms
I'm
of
Brian
dealing
Kilmeade.
with gun safety.
This woman basically laid it up for her to be like abortion.
Yeah.
I'm going to codify Roe v. Wade.
Hey, Kamala, remember what your campaign is
Deal with
about?
a number of issues.
You know,
whether it
I
be what
think
we
there
need to
should
do
be
in terms
one
of
party,
housing,
and all of us should
and
be in it.
creating legislation that creates
What?
incentives for that. What we need to do to reinstate the freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have
Oh,
her
she
government
remembered.
tell her
Good
what
job.
to do.
Good work, Kamala.
Whether it be what we need to do to
No,
actually
she's saying there's so much to
invest in a
do
substantial
that she can't
way
choose any
in the
one.
industries of
Just
the
say
future,
abortion.
she's
American-based
so
manufacturing.
Just say abortion or
in
say Medicare for all.
American-based
I'm going to do Medicare for
industries
all.
Where American workers and
No,
union
she's on an
workers
apology tour
have
for
those
everything she said in
jobs
2020.
in a way that is good-paying jobs that gives people the dignity they deserve. All of those areas, I plan on working across the aisle and with
She
Congress,
asked, "What would you do if you
including the
had
issue of
congressional-"
immigration,
What is
which
your
we've got to
priority,
fix.
Let me
dummy?
ask you, you've talked about codifying Roe v. Wade. That would
Anderson
obviously
Cooper is
require
helping her!
60 votes in the
Anderson
Senate,
Cooper is
a
literally
majority of
carrying. He's
the
like, "Come on,
House.
Kamala.
That's
You
a
said
big
Roe v. Wade,
Yeah.
right?
leap. You don't
You
have
would do
that.
codifying Roe v.
It's not
Wade,
possible
right,
to codify it in the
dumbass?
House.
Oh my God.
What do you do?
I think we need to take a look at the filibuster, to be
my
honest with you. But the reality of it is this. Let's talk about how we got here.
Why?
When Donald Trump was president, he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did as he intended. And now in 20 states, we have Trump abortion bans that include punishing healthcare providers, doctors and nurses. In Texas, do you know they provide for prison for life? For a healthcare provider for doing the job that they believe
We
is
have to
in the
start
best
taking
interest
a
of their
look
patient?
seriously at what kind of plans we can have about the
Laws, Trump
filibuster
abortion
as a
bans, some
concept,
that
as
make
a
no
theory,
exception
as an
even for
idea.
rape or incest.
How I
One of the
can't
areas
believe.
Just say you're going to
specialized
fucking
as
abolish the
specialized
filibuster.
in as
Just
a
say it. It
prosecutor
doesn't
was
matter.
crimes
Just
against
lie.
women
I don't
and
understand.
children.
Why
The
won't
idea
she
you
lie?
would tell a survivor of a
Like Donald Trump
violation
literally
to their
says
body
he's
that
going
they
to
have
do
no right to
concentration
make a
camps. He's
decision
not
about
going to
what
be able to do
happens to their body
concentration
next.
camps to the same
This is
degree
what's
that he wants
happening in
to.
our country.
And it's
You
like,
all
but
may
it doesn't
have read
matter.
the
He's going to
stories.
lie
Women
anyway.
have
He
died.
lies. He says immigrants are eating cats and dogs.
Women have
Just
died
fucking
because of
lie.
these laws.
Say you're going to do Medicare for all.
And the suffering.
like it's
I have to
2019
say,
again.
Anderson,
You're
traveling- for example,
already
I was
lying
with
to
Liz
the
Cheney
American
this
people
week.
when you're
She
like,
is
no, Joe
unapologetically
Biden
pro-life.
stepped down because he
will
decided it
also
was
tell
best
you
for a
she
generation of
doesn't agree with
Americans.
what's
Blah
been
blah blah
happening.
blah blah
I
blah.
find
When
that
you
many
pretend
people
that
I've
like
met
She's
who
lying when she
are
says she's going to
pro-life
give
have
$50,000
said to
in
me
tax cuts to and
You know,
startups.
I didn't intend
Republicans
that
are
this
not
would
going to let
happen.
that
I would-
happen
I
because they're going
didn't
to be
intend that
obstructionist
women who are
anyway.
suffering
So if
a
you're going to lie,
miscarriage would
why
develop
not lie for
sepsis,
good
as
shit
has
instead of
happened
like boring neoliberal
many times.
bullshit?
I
They've
didn't
lied
intend
about
that women
Joe
would die.
Biden's
I
mental
didn't
competence
intend
for
that there
years
would
and
now
years and
be
years. They're still
restrictions
doing
on
it.
access to in vitro
You're already
fertilization.
lying.
I didn't intend
Why
that there would be
not?
an effort to limit access
Shoot
to
for the stars.
contraception. So, you know, this is probably one of the most fundamental freedoms that we as Americans could imagine, which is the freedom to literally make decisions
One of the
about your
most
own
fundamental
body.
freedoms that we as Americans could imagine.
And
when you
on
when
some
you take the
issues,
spaces
I think
and
we gotta
pauses out of her
agree
sentences,
that partisanship should be
it's
put
just
aside.
astounding.
And I'll close with this point.
Kid who
know
was
it's
napping in
possible,
class and got
because
called
when you look
on.
at the midterms in so-called red states and so-called
I
blue
can't
states,
imagine a
when
more
this issue of
fundamental freedom. Well, I can
was
a
on the
couple,
ballot, the
but they're
American
right up
people
there
voted
with this
for
freedom that I'm
This is
imagining.
Leanne Griffiths.
Yeah,
She's
also
registered
they're
with the
fucking
party.
voting for that in Arizona, and you're probably still going to lose. But
Yep.
or in Florida.
Final decision because she isn't sure who's better for the economy. Leanne?
Hi, Vice President. Thank you for being here today. Considering you have been in the position of Vice President for the past 4 years under the Biden administration, how can we expect you to deviate from the direction of that administration compared to your own? How can we differentiate your policy and your beliefs from that of Biden's?
Okay, this
That's a
was
great
a
question, and
surprise.
thank you.
I would not have thought like
Well,
a
first of
UPenn
all,
young
my
black woman would
administration
be
will not
asking
be
such a
continuation of
conservative
the Biden
question.
administration. I
Like
bring
demographically
to
speaking, this is like
this role my own ideas.
I don't know if it's
and my own
conservative, like-
experience. I
Oh,
represent
we'll
a
see.
new generation of leadership on a number of issues and believe that we have to actually take new approaches. For example, what we talked about in terms of housing.
I thought you would talk about
my
Gaza. I thought the
experience
question would be
that
about Gaza.
leads to that priority.
I
includes what
think
did
they
to take
only
on
let
the
you
big
in
banks
if
around
you're in
the
the youth
foreclosure
wing of
crisis,
Third Way.
when I brought billions of dollars to homeowners that were the subject of predatory lending. I know what home ownership means to the American people, not to mention what it meant to my mother, who worked very hard and saved up so that by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. I bring to it my experience.
Homes
actually
were a
taking
really
care of
big
my
part
mother
of
when
my
she was sick,
childhood.
and it was, as it turned out, dying
You know,
from
as
cancer.
someone who grew up in
And
a
so I
home,
know what it means.
scratch
and have the
that.
experience
For
of
someone
taking care
who grew
of
up
an
as
elderly
the
relative,
daughter
and
of
I
a
have raised children.
homeowner,
And so I bring to my priorities and
My
will, as
gosh.
president, a new
Just-
approach and a new idea, frankly.
What is
about
the
what
approach?
we need to do to
What's
deal with the sandwich
new?
generation,
Say what's
which is what we
different.
call those
the
folks
approach I take is
who are
that I
literally in
represent
the
a
middle, who
new
are raising their young
generation
children
of
and
lawmakers that
taking
have
care of their
priorities
parents, which is
inside
why
these ideas
my plan
that will
and
take
approach
precedent.
says, hey, you shouldn't have
If
to,
we can hold
to
accountable
wipe out all your savings to qualify
the companies
for Medicaid,
that are
to
making
be
it
able
so
to
that
get support to hire somebody to
homeownership
help you cook for your parent
is
or
something
help them
that
put
can
on
be
a sweater.
aspired
I've done
to
that. I know what that requires. You shouldn't
rather
have
than
to
just something
quit your job
that is out of reach.
in order to do the work that is necessary to take care of your children and your parent, because it's overwhelming to try to do it all. And so my plan is to have and allow Medicare to cover the cost of home health care for our seniors.
I think this
These
is
are
like
couple
a
of
broad
examples,
question where
including what we
she
talked
can
about in
separate
terms
way
of price
further than just simply
gouging.
saying like, I'm
And
going to
what we
do
need to
a
do in
Medicare
addition,
expansion
and
for
it's a
at-home
new
care.
approach that I think it's well overdue.
I think that's like as
Let's invest in the
ambitious
small
as
businesses of
her
America.
Like
policy
this is
team
this
gets.
is where
I-
she's supposed to be as ambitious as
the
possible.
woman who helped raise us was a small business owner. I know who
Holy
small business
shit!
owners are. I know what they do. They are the backbone of America's economy. And for too long, we've overlooked
Fucking
their
Brian
value
Kilmeade.
to
Oh
the
my
economy
God.
as a
You
whole,
know,
much less to the
as
economy
the
of
daughter
neighborhoods and communities.
of someone
so
who
that's
once
why my plan and
had
its a
to
new
save
approach
up
is about tax cuts
to buy their
for
very
our
own
small
car.
businesses.
Oh,
So
I
they
know
can
what it's
invest
like.
in
Tax cuts.
themselves and
Oh
grow,
God.
and in the
Oh God.
process, invest in communities.
She's talking to like a
invest in
20-year-old
neighborhoods,
UPenn student
strengthen
about
our
tax
economy
cuts
overall.
and
So those are some
$50,000 in
examples.
tax
It's
cuts
about
for
a new
fucking
approach,
small
a new
businesses.
generation of
I
leadership
know how
based on
important
new ideas
taxes are.
and frankly different
When
experiences.
I was growing
I
up,
bring a whole set of different experiences
My mom followed them.
to this job and the way I think about it than Joe Biden.
Some voters, though, might ask, you've been in the White House for 4 years. You were vice president, not the president. But why wasn't any of that done the last 4 years?
Well, there was
Get
a
him,
lot that
Anderson.
was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done. And I'm not going to shy
Why does
away
she
from
always do
saying,
that?
hey,
Like
these are still
restate-
problems that we
Yeah,
need to
it's like
fix.
I want you to meet Jackson Weiss.
I think it's just like a weird verbal tick.
Pennsylvania, registered Republican.
I do think that there is a.
Yet to make up.
Oh no! You're about to get griped up, bitch.
Thank you.
Regarding the rapid increase in the migrant population, how will you ensure that every immigrant is integrated into American society
What do you think about
safely?
the banning
What benefits and
of
subsidies
pajama
will you
groiper?
provide them with, and how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the American citizens' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies? And if so, how much money will be allocated?
Oh, she got griped.
Well, thank you, Jackson. Let's start with this.
Shut up,
America's
nerd.
immigration system
No,
is broken,
Jackson
and
owned
it needs
her.
to be fixed. And it's been
I'm in
broken for a
groiper
long
chat
time.
with Jackson. I'm giving him
Part
props.
of what we need to do is always prioritize what we need to do to strengthen our border. I will tell you, I'm the only person.
We have to
in this race
prioritize
among
what
the
we
two
need to
choices
do
that voters have.
to strengthen
I've
the border.
Personally prosecuted
prosecute
transnational
transnational
criminal
gangs!
organizations.
Yes!
In the trafficking
Yes,
of guns,
transnational
drugs,
gangs,
and
I hate them!
I have spent
Prosecuted them!
a
Yes!
significant part of my career
Kamala!
making sure that our border is secure and that we
It's
do
the
not allow
perfect Kamala
criminals
response.
in,
Just like
and
a
we don't allow
nonsense
that
phrase,
kind of
like we
trafficking
need to
happen and come into our
prioritize those.
country. And
I
as
believe in the things that we
the-
need to prioritize in
as
order
my
to,
opponent
and then
has
transnational
proven
gains.
himself.
He's not
He would
serious about
prefer
killing
to
migrants.
run
I
our
am.
problem instead of fix the problem.
The
You
guy
may
who keeps
know
saying they're rapists
there
every
were
day.
some of
He's
the
not
most
with it.
conservative
I am-
members of the United
Look
States
at-
Congress
look at-
working
it's
with
working
others
on Jackson,
that came
though.
up with a border security
Jackson's
bill
like, he's actually
that would
pretty
have put
based.
1,500 more border
I'll at
agents
least
at the
make a
border.
groiper
Those
out of
border
it.
agents
We
are
need more border
They need
agents.
the support they need to back up.
Hey,
It would have allowed us to have
this
more
fucking
resources
is
to stem the flow of fentanyl.
I'm gonna make a groiper
I
out
don't
of
need to tell
Doug.
this state and people
I
around
always
the
like Doug.
country
Doug's so
what is
cool.
happening in terms of the scourge of fentanyl and how it is literally killing Americans.
There
It
should
would
be
have put
someone who.
resources
What does that
to
have to do with
stemming the
immigration,
flow.
dumbass?
It would have given more resources
There
to
should be
prosecute,
someone
to
who's
investigate,
like pro
prosecute
fentanyl at
transnational
one of
criminal
these.
organizations. It would have done a lot of good. Donald Trump got wind of the bill and told them, don't
Are
put it
Democrats
forward.
getting
Kill
like
the
a
bill.
sponsorship deal
Because he'd
to
prefer
talk about
run
the
on a problem
fucking
instead of
dumbass border
fixing a
bill?
problem. We have
They
to have a
love
secure
this.
border.
They're going to be
and
on their deathbeds
have
being
to
like,
have a
the border
comprehensive
guards
pathway
liked it.
for
Until they literally
citizenship.
were like, yeah,
And
we don't
that
like it anymore.
includes
F you.
requiring
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
We're endorsing
hardworking
Donald
people
Trump,
to
of
earn
course.
citizenship and do it in a comprehensive, humane, and orderly manner.
Let me ask you about that. I mean, you talk about the bill.
You know
that
what I think
Donald
that the
Trump
thing is
quashed,
with
that
Kamala's
was in
patter?
2024.
Like the,
You talk about the bill
we
he
have
tried
to
get passed in
prioritize
2021.
those
That wasn't
ideas
able
in
to
which
get
blah, blah, blah.
passed. 2022,
I think that's the problem in
2023, there
having
were
a
record border
politician
crossings.
where their
Your
beliefs and views are
administration
so
took a
malleable
number,
and that
hundreds
they
of
don't have
executive
like three
actions. It
core
didn't
things
stem
they
the
could
flow.
fall back on,
Numbers
like
kept going
even
up.
Biden or
Finally,
Trump has.
in 2024,
She's so
just in
ephemeral,
June, 3 weeks before
just
the last,
ideologically,
first presidential debate with Joe Biden,
that
you institute executive actions
most
that have
of her
dramatic
output is
impact,
just filler
really shut
words and
down
filler
people
phrases
crossing
that
over.
are, when you
Why
actually
didn't your administration
like,
do
remove
that
the
in
spacing
2022,
and
2023?
performance from them are
First
so
of all, you're
f***ing
right,
meaningless.
Anderson, and as of today, we have cut the flow of immigration by over half. In fact, the numbers I saw most recently, illegal immigration
But if
is
it was
low.
that
But hold
easy
on,
with
let me
that
finish.
executive action, why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Because we were working with Congress and hoping that actually we could have a long-term fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix.
You couldn't have done one and both at the same time?
Well, here's the thing. We have to understand that ultimately this problem is going to be fixed through congressional action. Congress has the authority and the purse. I hate to use DC terms, but literally they write the checks. Part of the issue is in order to really fix the problem at the border. I was just at the border recently talking with border agents. You know what they talk about? Yes, they are overwhelmed. They're working around the clock. And the other thing that they talk to me about,
I feel really bad
we
for
need
the
more
border
judges
agents.
down
I feel
there
really
to deal
bad for the
with asylum
Gestapo.
claims.
Can we get
need
better
more
help for the
personnel
border
down there to
agents?
deal with processing. But Anderson, and that's where Congress kicks in terms of dedicating the resources to actually
When they get
fixing-
everything they want, just like the fucking police do, you are left with nothing. So then that's why like Republicans do this funny thing where it's like, I'm gonna make it illegal to be mean to cops. Like that's next election cycle. That's what's gonna be the Democratic Party position. It's illegal now to make fun of the Customs and Border Patrol because they can't do their jobs if you make fun of them.
Do you wish you'd done those executive orders in 2022, 2023?
I think we did the right thing. But the best thing
following.
that can happen for the American people is that we have bipartisan work happening, and I pledge to you
The most
that
important
I
thing,
will
huh?
work across the aisle to fix this
Fucking
long-standing
Christ,
problem.
this
I think
sucks.
the American people are demanding it on both sides of the aisle. And it's time we actually put the partisan approach to this aside. We know what can work.
Well, let's talk about this compromise bill that you want to pass if you're elected. You said that's going to be a priority. It includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. That's something Republicans wanted. That was part of the compromise. Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project.
Go in.
Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall.
Would you kick my ass?
So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't. How much of that wall did he build? I think.
Yeah, that was the problem with the border wall, that they didn't get Mexico to pay for it. What are you, a fucking Trump supporter? Like, what are you saying?
That President Obama
Oh,
built.
maybe she's a former
groyper. Bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that.
I pledge that I am going to bring forward that bipartisan bill to further strengthen and secure our border.
Temple
yes, I am. And I'm going to work across the aisle.
How about you solve that one, Kamala?
A comprehensive bill that deals with a broken immigration system. I think Jackson's question, part of it was to acknowledge that America has always had migration, but there needs to be a legal process for it. People have to earn it. And that's the point that I think is the most important point that can be made, which is we need a president
Why don't you marry Jackson?
In common sense and practical outcomes. Like, let's just fix
dare you
this
disparage
thing.
Doug?
Let's just fix it. Why is there any ideological perspective on it? Let's just fix the problem.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occur,
So
Anderson.
you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he
I'm
did
not
and
afraid
how
of
he
good
did
ideas.
it
the
did
wall
not
is a
make
good
much sense
idea.
because he actually didn't do
I'm
much
not
of
afraid
anything.
of good ideas.
I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually
the daughter
do much
of somebody
of anything.
But you do want to build
who
some
had
wall.
a house that had
With
walls
walls.
in
I
it.
want to strengthen our border.
This is Annalise Keene. She's from Philadelphia. She works as a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity. She's registered with no party affiliation. She says she's a Democrat. She's leaning toward voting for you, but said she's yet to make her final decision in part because of the conflict in the Middle East. Annalise?
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Vice President.
Good evening.
My question is, as president, what would you do to ensure not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars?
So I will say, and I think this is to your point, far too many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed. It's unconscionable. And
She said Palestinians
we
first.
are now at a place where with Sinwar's death, I do believe we have an opportunity to end this war. Bring the
Why
hostages
does she
home.
keep saying that?
Bring
stupid.
relief
She's so
to
stupid.
the
has no idea why
Palestinian
she's saying
people
that.
and work
Wait, I wanna
toward
hear this. Hold
a
on.
two-state solution where Israel and the Palestinians in equal measure have security, where the Palestinian people have dignity, self-determination.
The question was,
and
what would you do to ensure that no other Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by
What
U.S.
do you
tax
say to
dollars?
voters who are thinking about supporting a third-party candidate or staying on the couch, not voting at all because of this issue?
Listen, I am not going to deny the strong feelings that people have. I don't know that anyone who has seen the images who would not have strong feelings about what has happened, much less those who have relatives who have died and been killed. And I know people and have talked with people. So I appreciate that. But I also do know that for
Israel
many
has a right to
people who
defend
care
itself.
about this issue, they also care about bringing down
Will
the
she
price of
bring up
groceries. They also care
beheaded
about
baby?
our democracy and
What?
not
Oh my
having a president of the
fucking God.
United
Oh my
States who
fucking God.
admires
Oh my
dictators and is a fascist. They also care about the fact that we need practical, common sense solutions from a leader who is willing to work across the aisle on behalf of the American people and not themselves.
Doug Burson would be
They
up
want
by
a president who
15.
cares about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body. Understanding that we're not trying to change anyone's beliefs,
care about
but let's not have the
practical
government telling women what to do with their body.
I want you to meet Beth Sandberg. She's a realtor, a mom of four from Ballackinwood, Pennsylvania. She's a registered Democrat, says she's undecided because of concerns about anti-Semitism. Beth?
Yes!
Hi, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Beth.
for remembering we need to bring the hostages home.
Of course.
The rise of anti-Semitism and violence from anti-Semitism has risen greatly on college campuses and on our city streets in the last year. How would you combat this growing trend and protect our young adults?
Support our troops, Ribbon.
Thank you, Beth. You are right, and I will say that we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism. It is something that we have to be honest about and we have to deal with. As Attorney General, I actually published a hate crimes report.
Like, what more can you do? You like kill the fucking anti-Zionist Jews on campus? Like, what can you do more to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses?
We're looking into starting the policy of building a Gundam suit for Doug,
so that they understand what are the tropes, what are the roots of what we are seeing. So that we can actually have people
trope education
be more understanding. We need to have laws in place.
Yeah, that's why I'm supporting the IHRA definition bill.
On behalf of anti-Semitism and hate, that they pay a serious consequence. We need to have the deterrence so that doesn't happen.
She's so much more passionate about this than the Palestinian dead children stuff. Like, she's popping off.
She stopped relying on all like the crutch connector phrases.
But I'm going to tell you what doesn't help. Again, I invite you to listen.
What if she said something crazy right now?
To listen to John Kelly. The former chief of staff
of
Donald Trump.
What did you think it was going to be?
Oh my God! Told us.
How funny would it be?
I thought she was going to be like, we have to listen to the protesters.
No. She did no.
Like those of Hitler's.
Wouldn't it be funny though if she had just like up and said something crazy? She was like,
who has
you gotta admit though,
several times
those dudes are annoying.
Donald Trump is anti-Semitic.
He's like, listen,
I believe Donald Trump is a danger
and he's
to the well-being and security of America.
He has said that he's cast himself as a protector of Israel. Do you believe you would be more pro-Israel than Donald Trump?
I believe that Donald Trump is dangerous. I believe that when you have a president of the United States who has said to his
who is
generals,
confused by anyone at this point? Like, we know it's maximum support for Israel for both parties.
Many of them took place
what
in the
more
Oval
can you do?
Office.
Oh my.
And if the president
Anderson
of
is
the
like,
United
we
States,
brought a 6-year-old Palestinian that we extracted from under the rubble in Gaza. Like, will you kill her right now?
Hitler's generals, Anderson, come on. This is a serious issue.
This is so bad.
And we know who he is. He admires dictators, sending love letters back and forth with Kim
When the American
Jong-un.
Free Officers movement wins, Anderson Cooper is going to live in a zoo.
The president of Russia, and then most recently, the reports are that in the
You're
height
going to
of
be able
COVID,
to throw bread at Anderson
when
Cooper.
most
and
Americans could not get their hands on a COVID test. Americans were dying by the hundreds a day. He secretly sent
I personally think he should only do hurricane coverage.
to the president of Russia for his personal use. So again, this election in 13 days is presenting the American people with
it's funny because that woman is still voting Trump, by the way.
Yeah, no shot.
On the one side, on this
she's
issue,
going to vote the same way
of who is going to model
if Kamala had really said
what it means to
they're
use
kind of
the
annoying.
bully pulpit of the president of the United States.
Yeah, she's going to vote as though Kamala said, we're dismantling the Zionist entity piece by piece.
Yeah.
We are going to make a formal merger between Hamas and Fatah.
Hate, as opposed to
we need to
fanning
bridge
the
we need to follow
hate, which Donald Trump does consistently.
We need to follow China on this.
I'm going to tell you.
They've made inroads.
We are an incredible country, and we love our country. Y'all wouldn't be here unless we love our country. And there are certain things where we've just got to come together and realize that we do believe in the importance of healthy debate on real issues. But there are certain standards we've got to have.
This is so.
Another point that even John Kelly talked about, I believe, and many have, is January 6th, where you have the President of the United States defying the will of the people in a free and fair election and unleashing a violent mob who attacked the United States Capitol. 140 law enforcement officers were attacked. Some were killed.
It's kind of funny
I say
that she like barely said what she would do for like combating anti-Semitism on campus. I'm no longer voting for Kamala Harris. I'm confused by whether or not she will take this issue seriously.
Yeah. No, she didn't.
I'm a single issue voter. Okay.
How we think about the role and the responsibility.
Every single college campus liberal sign a petition to say they will never disparage the beautiful state of Israel or not? If your answer is no, I don't know. Can't vote for you.
Yeah. How am I supposed to trust somebody like that with tropes education?
Yeah, I'm a single issue voter. When will you restore Shai Davide's status at Columbia?
Yeah. When will you give Shai Davide a federally funded position where he's professor at large for every college in America?
Yeah, we need Shai Davide's in all campuses. Please.
Replace the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools with Shai Davide's thread about going viral for crying.
Yeah, that was cool. This is incredible stuff overall. This is masterclass. I mean, there's like a couple of reiterations of decent policies. Wait, what? Hasan will become a single issue voter when they push for banning Zin. No, I'm already a single issue voter. I am a single issue voter. How will Kamala Harris combat anti-Semitism on college campuses? That's my single issue. There are still students out there that learn in classrooms that genocide is bad, for example. I don't think that that's appropriate. I think that sometimes genocide is good. Like, for example, if the victims of the genocide are barbaric, rapist animal monsters like Arabs who have an antiquated ancient gene of anti-Semitism in their hearts. If you don't teach it like that, then people are going to learn the wrong lessons. Okay? That's just it. That's my single issue.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my single issue. And Kamala, her answers weren't that good. Okay. They were not that good on this issue. I do like that she was more passionate about answering that, for the record, than she was about answering the other person who was like, when will you stop murdering children with American weapons? And she was like, yeah, it's really bad. We're beginning to think about the humanity of the situation.
That was, I just like, does anyone on her team like ever do they take it in? Do they watch it? Do they go, maybe this is just pure fucking nonsense?
Yeah. And then she was like, but people are, and then when someone asked, like when Anderson asked the follow-up, like, okay, but like, what do you say to third-party voters that don't want to vote for you? She's like, well, I'm going to I'm going to make milk cartons cost less. So, who cares about the genocide stuff? It is pretty funny when she's like, I don't know why she thought like every single question should be tacked back to Donald Trump. Should have like should have an attachment at the end of it that like Donald Trump is Hitler or something, even though you also like his border wall. You literally verbatim said that border wall is some policies are good. I'm not going to say no to a good policy when talking about the border wall. When the question itself was literally, why did you say it was stupid in 2018?
That would actually be a good question for her that, again, she would not answer, which is like, if Donald Trump is Hitler, then what policies of his specifically do you not like?
Yeah.
Because you seem okay with like a lot of them.
Yeah.
You don't disagree on Israel, on the border. What is it? What are the mitigating policies?
Oh, yeah. Is so Hillary 2016 coded? I swear if she throws this. I
kind of think, I don't know.
Hillary Clinton had way worse like of an approval rating, but Kamala has done a really good job of like trying to get there.
Yeah.
She's making up for lost time, like 30 years of conspiracy theories. She's trying to fucking package into like.
One of the first phone calls
Hillary
you made
had like
after
decades and
President Biden
decades of
announced
like
that he was dropping out was
like
to your pastor, and I'm
truly
wondering if it wasn't a
awful,
confessional, if
slimy,
you could say what that
bullshit.
conversation was like.
Well, my pastor, Reverend Dr. Amos C. Brown of Third Baptist Church, it was an extraordinary day that Sunday when the president called me, and
I don't like hearing personal anecdotes from her life.
understood the gravity of the moment.
You're one of the weirdest people
ever.
Because like personal anecdotes are supposed to humanize you, but if you don't have the charisma to like make it seem real, then it comes across as like a lizard person wearing a human skin suit trying to be like, I'm so human.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like
connection. I needed that
nothing
advice. I needed
about
a
her stands as
there's
like recognizable.
There's a
you
part
know?
of the scripture that talks about Esther and a time such as this, and
I hate how every Democrat is like this now. Yeah, like we made fun of Josh Shapiro, but they're all like this now, where they're like, I'm actually like a really crazy Christian.
Yeah,
I'm
actually a lunatic.
The only one I believe on that is Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, she's a
she's a real ride or die Catholic.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi is the type of Catholic that grew up worshiping skeletons. That's totally fine. I support that.
Raised
I just don't like it
to
when
believe
like
in a loving God.
You know,
someone who literally has like a fucking a Jamaican father who is like a Stanford college professor and a mother who's like also upper middle class. Like there is no real reason for her to be like even remotely religious, and I don't even for a brief moment think that she is actually religious. I think that they just do this because they think like other religious people will respond positively to this. But like Trump is not fucking religious. Okay? At a certain point you got to realize like religious people don't give a if they're actually politically religious, they just want you to do mean things to gay people. They don't care how much you fucking recite scripture. It's so stupid.
Says he's undecided, doesn't agree with your stance on abortion, but he is concerned about what he calls Trump's demeanor and actions on January 6th.
Joe?
Thank you, Madam Vice President, and thank you, Anderson.
I have the same problem this guy has sometimes, where it's like the chest hair will like peek through the crew neck.
We make mistakes. We have our weaknesses. And the office of the presidency can sometimes bring those weaknesses out in ways that the incumbent may not expect. What weaknesses do you bring to the table, and how do you plan to overcome them while you're in office?
That's a great question, Joe. Well, I am certainly not perfect, so let's start there. And
she's gonna kill Joe.
I think that perhaps a weakness, some would say, but I actually think it's a strength, is I really do value having a team of very smart people around me who bring
what a weak one! I care too much.
Decision-making process.
I'm too bipartisan.
The people, my friends are too smart.
My team will tell you I am constantly saying,
I would like to see a politician answer this.
Let's kick the tires
and be like,
on it.
I'm actually a little racist.
Because listen,
I'm actually,
as I mentioned earlier,
she's gonna say, I think Doug's annoying.
Doug's annoying. I'm a little
anti-Semitic.
And
I've tried everything from low level.
I haven't been sober behind the wheel of a car in like 17 years.
I'm fucking barred out right now. If you couldn't tell.
When I don't like something that happens on a TV show, I shoot a wall.
With my Glock that I own at my house. It scares Doug a lot when I do it.
I was Attorney General of what is the fifth largest economy in the world.
I've adopted dogs and then just return them just because, I don't know, they were stupid.
My words could move markets. So I take my role and responsibility as an elected leader very seriously.
What do you think would happen?
And I know the impact it has on so many people I may never meet. What's
your favorite?
And that is why I engage.
What's your favorite appetizer? Do you think you could get a straight answer?
To have the answer as soon as you ask it about
I've never seen anything quite like this.
We're not. She's always trying to repackage the. There are no blue states or red states.
Yeah.
It's the United States with every answer.
The all-time worst Obama tribute
some might
app.
call that a weakness, especially if you're, in
Josh
an
Shapiro would do
interview or
better
just kind of,
here for sure.
Oh, Josh Shapiro would be owning. They'd be like,
expected to have the right answer right away, but
smoking
cools. That's how I work.
Sometimes I like to smoke a little cool after a breezy summer night.
I like a reefer
when I'm playing ball with the boys.
Like a reefer.
You think it's a mistake that you have learned from?
Like filling up my jam meter and doing special moves on the court.
I've made many mistakes. And they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well-versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
God.
I want you to meet Pam Thistle. She's from
Is
Winmore,
anyone
Pennsylvania.
ever gonna
She's a
be
realtor.
like,
She's
hey,
a widow. Her
you
husband
didn't
Mike
answer
died
the
just a
thing
year
I
ago.
asked.
She has 2 daughters in college. She registered
Just
with
said
no
fucking
affiliation
nonsense
and says she's
again.
undecided. She has concerns about how you would handle the economy. Pam?
Thank you, and thank you, Anderson, and happy belated birthday to.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and I'm
What?
really
My
appreciative for
husband's
you
still
to
alive.
be here and get to know
just
you.
wait.
When you talk about rich people paying their fair share, can you be more specific? Income
Okay,
taxes
Pam.
are already on a graduated scale, where the more you make, the higher percentage you pay in taxes. So
Wait,
the
what?
rich are paying a disproportionate amount in taxes as it is. Over 40% of Americans don't pay
Okay,
any
dude,
income
we should
taxes.
arrest. No, we should
Also, the
arrest
really
undecided
high
voters.
earners
We should just
can
jail
move their
them.
I
money
love
offshore
CNN.
if they are
Hey, we need some regular undecided voters, aka
She's
R
describing
plus
it-
20 sample.
She's
would like to
describing
hear
a
more
progressive
nuts and bolts
taxation
about your
structure
economic
as though it's a
plans.
bad
Sure,
thing.
thank you, Pam.
Like,
So first of all,
Get ready
it
for a
is
sense-making
the
ass
case
answer,
in
though.
the United States of America that billionaires on average pay less taxes as a percentage than teachers and
Oh my
firefighters
God,
and
she made a
nurses.
direct
I'm talking
response
about
to
hard workers,
something.
like pound the street, have some success.
Yes, no, I understand,
Yes.
but I want to just let's
Not
set
the really high.
Let's set the scene, right?
Yeah.
So when I say that the richest among us need to pay their fair share,
Okay.
I am referencing that, and I need to reference
and
that
not
because
you,
sadly,
Pam. Not
Donald Trump,
you.
when
I
he
will
was
never
president,
tax you. Don't
gave
you worry.
tax cuts to the richest, to billionaires and big corporations, which added trillions of dollars to our deficit. So that sadly needs to be said in a way that should
Oh
be
yeah,
obvious.
that's why we need to
your
tax more for
point,
the deficit.
but is not given what he did. Now, in terms of what we need to do to bring down taxes, I have pledged and have a plan for a middle-class tax cut that would affect 100 million Americans, including, for example, what we will do around small businesses in terms of tax deductions, in terms of what small businesses are now being mired in terms of a bureaucracy around they have to fill out and do their taxes in a way that actually holds them back. Part of my plan includes extending a middle-class tax cut that would include a $6,000 tax cut, essentially a child tax credit for parents and young parents in particular, knowing that the vast majority of our parents have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources. So this is going to include an extra amount of just money that people can use to pay for childcare, which is far too expensive for too many working families. And part of the issue here is this. We cannot, and I will not, raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 a year, but we do need to take seriously the system that benefits the richest and does not help out working middle-class Americans. I come from the middle class, and I believe that
And
the
I
middle
love the
class
middle class.
needs tax breaks.
And I love the
to be
small
able to
businesses.
actually
I come
not just
from.
get
I
by,
am a
but
small
get ahead.
business.
So you're saying
My mom is a small business.
I prosecuted transnational small businesses.
400,000 won't have taxes raised. Or are you saying that anyone above 400,000 will have a tax raise?
I'm saying that there is going to be a parity around what the richest people pay in terms of their taxes. Right now, Anderson, you know, the document, it is well documented that some of the richest people in our country have gotten away with a zero tax rate.
But if you're earning $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 under your plan, there's a good chance your taxes go up.
We can't have this conversation without knowing it's a very complicated situation, right? If you're talking about a small business owner, I'm going to cut taxes for small businesses, right? Because I know that they need the overhead, the money that they need for overhead to actually benefit the growth of their business, which benefits our economy as a whole.
Let's go to, actually, I want to reference something that about Pam. Pam, we mentioned her husband Steve died a year ago. You've talked about your mom, Kamala Harris, who died 15 years ago. What has grief been like for you? Do you still
She's
grieve?
a 60-year-old woman.
You don't stop grieving.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God. No child should ever have to bury their parent at age 50.
I think that there is, there are like two sides
No
to
one
a
has
coin
gone
when
through-
you have lost somebody. you
No,
love.
they're trying to. This is so the Biden campaign that they're just trying to do the Biden run.
I hate this
If you
shit
have
so
had the
fucking
blessing
much. I
of
hate everyone like
a
this.
close and
You don't know
and
my
important
story. My
relationship with
grandma
someone,
died when I was
then
30.
when you have that the other the point is that
Don't
when
be an
you
asshole.
lose
She's
them,
an orphan.
the grief becomes even deeper.
Yeah.
But I also
60-year-old
believe that,
orphan.
for example, anyone who has lost a family member through cancer or an illness, my mother died from cancer. It is important to try and remember them as they lived and not as they died, because
You
the
will
grief
never
can
be the
really
mourner in chief.
weigh-
That's Joe Brandon.
Yeah.
How
There's
dare
a
you?
way of
Yeah,
when
you're gonna have to
grieving
start
really
sacrificing Doug if you want to
spiraling
be like
down, and
Brandon.
it's
Yeah.
important, I think, to try and remember those you have lost in a way they'd want to be remembered, as being vibrant, and I think it's important to just to grieve as one does. I don't think there's any correct or proper way to grieve. And the most important thing is I think that people do not suppress what they're feeling at any moment, and the rest of us should give them grace to go through it as they will.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more from the CNN Presidential Town Hall with Vice President Kamala Harris.
This is incredible. She didn't mention NATO once tonight. Not one time.
Zero
Does Kamala
AUKUS.
Harris even know what NATO is? I'm starting to wonder if she ever even heard of it. You can't just ignore NATO. My family and I are outraged, and we'll be writing in Joe Biden because he would never, ever forget to mention NATO, ever. I, for one, am upset about no AUKUS mention, no Five Eyes mention, and, of course, no mention of the pivotal accomplishment of Biden where all the naysayers, all the haters said, oh, you're going to Finlandize NATO. To which he responded with, no, Jack, I'm going to NATOize Finland. And he did do that. Yeah. And I think that that's important.
Do you think Kamala can even name like one member of AUKUS? I don't think so. I don't think she's a real fan.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like all of these questions and all of these answers, like I feel like I'm losing my mind when I watch this shit, because it's like, there are very real problems in America, okay? There are very real domestic issues in America, okay? And there are very real foreign policy blunders that the Biden administration has committed. And, like, Americans do recognize it, right? Like, they see it. And yet it feels like half of the questions are, like, vague to try to get her to arrive at, like, a reasonable answer. And even then, she just refuses to go there. And the other half are just like completely stupid nonsense. And like, it makes me feel like I'm thirsty. I'm hungry for like a person who will just look at a situation and be like, this shit's fucked up. I'm going to fix it. And I don't know if I am alone in this. You know what I mean? Like, with all of my expectations, obviously being that, you know, it's never going to happen in American media. I get it. I don't need to hear people telling me, I told you so, that's never going to happen, you're so stupid. But it's like, I can't be alone in feeling this way. I can't be alone in feeling like, you know, like, just address the fucking issues directly. Yeah, like, tackle it fucking head on.
Answer any question. You know, like, if she wins, which is like a distinct possibility, how are people going to respond to 4 years of this? How are people going to respond to, like, you know, say, like, there is a Katrina-like national disaster, or say that, like,
none of this shit matters. They tried to kill our president.
Yes, sir.
Why haven't they mentioned Fethullah Gulen's? No, this is Discord bot. It's a bot that says the funniest shit. Why haven't they mentioned Fethullah Gulen's death once in this debate?
Oh my God, what do you think she would say if they asked her? First of all, she doesn't know who that is. But
yeah.
She would be like someone would mouth religious leader, and she would be like, you know,
she would think it's like Yahya Sinwar or something. It's like exotic enough. She'd think it was like a Lebanese Shia that
now that Gulen's dead, we have a great opportunity to establish a ceasefire.
Yeah, in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I prosecuted transnational hurricanes.
Like, what is going to happen if there is a Katrina level disaster? If there is like a, you know, like a giant like ground war between like Israel and Iran? Like, what? Any any like bad realistic thing you can think of. What is going to happen when like Kamala goes out there and she's like, you know,
and we are back.
The
with
dreams in which
Kamala
we
Harris.
share
I want to meet Rob
with
McPherson.
each other
He's the chief marketing
are
officer
different
for a local
from the
organization. He's
divisions
registered
that divide
Republican
us.
from Media, Pennsylvania, who told us he's leaning towards voting for you, but has concerns about what he calls shifts in your policy positions. Rob?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Vice President Harris. So welcome to Delco.
Thank you.
Here in Delco, we pride ourselves on being authentic.
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay.
much of what we have been
I hate
saying,
people like
have
this.
seen
My shitty little
much of what you've
suburb
been
in
saying with
Pennsylvania
regard to
is
issues
different.
like law and order.
We're the only people
and
that tell the
fracking,
truth.
reflect a more
Really?
centrist view than what people are
Not
used
like
to
those
hearing from Kamala
Pittsburgh Yinzer
Harris. Leading some voters
charlatans.
to wonder about
they're
the
liars,
authenticity of
not
your
like
current, more
Delco
moderate
people.
positions. Can you talk a little bit about how your positions have shifted and why?
Sure, and thank you. So first of all,
Get
on
ready
fracking,
for a real ass
I've been very
answer.
clear. We kind of dispensed with this in 2020. I am not going to ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, as vice president, I cast the tie-breaking vote that now has opened up more fracking leases.
Hell
My
yeah!
value on the issue of what we need to do to invest in a clean energy economy and a clean energy future has not changed. But frankly, I now have the experience and perspective of having been vice president for almost 4 years. I've traveled the country. I know that we can invest in a clean energy economy and still not ban fracking and still work toward what we need to do to create more jobs and create U.S.-based jobs in a way that will be globally competitive. On the issue of law and order, as you mentioned, I think there's just a whole lot of misinformation, to be honest with you. I have personally prosecuted very serious crime. It's how I started my career. I spent most of my career as a prosecutor, not in Washington, D.C. And as my first priority had and remains as a first priority to me, the safety of the American people. So that has not changed. And sadly, I think that there's a bit of misinformation, if not more than a bit. But I'm glad that you raised the subject so that I can address it. But just if you don't mind, just let me just finish. Because I think the spirit of your question is really important, and I'm glad you raised it. Our country deserves to have a president of the United States who is not afraid of good ideas and does not stand on pride. If a perspective needs to be informed by different points of view to build consensus and to have a common sense approach, I'm never going to shy away from good ideas. And I'm not going to feel the need to have pride associated with a position that I've taken when the important thing is to build consensus to fix problems. I believe in fixing problems.
This is how Joe Biden probably feels.
I love
all the
fixing
time.
problems. And so I
How I
pledge to
feel.
you to be a president who not only works for all Americans, but works on getting
I feel like
stuff
I'm reliving
done.
memories.
And that
from,
means compromise.
Like when I was a toddler.
And it doesn't mean compromising your values or your principles, but it does mean working to get stuff done. And I pledge to you I will do that.
Just to be clear, though, what he's referring to, and you point out to when you're running for vice president in 2020, you were not talking about banning fracking, but...
No, Anderson, I pledged that I would not ban fracking.
Right, I know. You said you would not ban fracking.
Correct.
You know, you had said in the 2019 town hall, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. In 2017, you talked about Medicare for all. You talked about 2019, you raised a hand in debate about if border crossings should be decriminalized. Are all of those issues, which those are not your positions now, are all those issues that you're saying through consensus and getting stuff done you have evolved on?
Well, no, let's take, for example, the issue of Medicare. My point has always been that access to health care should not just be a privilege of those who can afford it. It should be a right for all people.
So why are you anti-Medicare for all now?
I have worked on doing what we have done to, one, allow Medicare to negotiate against the big pharmaceutical companies to bring down the cost of prescription medication.
So why aren't you pro-Medicare for all now?
We've achieved that in terms of capping the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, capping the cost of annual prescriptions at $2,000 a year for seniors. But my plan moving forward based on that very principle that I've always had is, as president, to have that cap be for everyone and not just for our seniors. The work that I have done that has been about recognizing the importance of dealing with border security, that has never changed. As I said, I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations. That I did for years before I ever ran in 2019.
I mean, you did raise your hand saying debate when asked if border crossing should be decriminalized, but obviously that is not your position.
I never intended, nor will I ever allow America to have a border that is not secure. I believe we need to deal with illegal immigration. Yeah. There needs to be consequences.
We need to get those fucking aliens out of here.
My plan that
I'm a Democrat, by the way.
And again, please go to KamalaHarris.com. Sorry to throw a website on you, but why not? And you will see that part of my plan includes what we need to do to actually do more as it relates to putting resources in, including increasing penalties for illegal crossing.
And just finally on fracking, you're clear you would not ban it as president.
No, I would not ban it as president.
Right, you're clear on that. Do you think it is bad for the environment, though?
I think that we have proven that we can invest in a clean energy economy. We can mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. We can work on and sustaining what we need to do to protect this beautiful earth of ours and not ban fracking.
Time is short, so I want to get some more voters in. Tanisha Spall from Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. She works as an education administration manager for the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. Registered Democrat who says she's leaning towards supporting you, has yet to make her final decision. Tanisha, welcome.
Thank you, Anderson. Thank you, Madam Vice President, for joining us this evening. I appreciate that you did acknowledge that we are a country that is faced with problems and issues. With the Supreme Court being plagued with issues, would you be in favor of expanding the court to, say, 12, so each justice has only one Supreme Court?
Yeah, she had the best question so far.
The only lib here, the only true lib.
More balanced.
Well, to your point, there is no question that the American people increasingly are losing confidence in the Supreme Court.
Oh, just say yes. I'm going to make it 1,000 Supreme Court judges, please.
Or just say anything besides this
decision and taking away a precedent that had been in place for 50 years, protecting a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. So I do believe that there should be some kind of reform of the court, and we can study what that actually looks like.
What?
But I do believe.
Study?
But again, let's
You're
just,
about to become president, potentially.
Understand
what do you mean we're going to start this study?
That is the perfect Kamala answer, because she's...
In 13 days, you will decide.
You get her saying we need to reform the court, and Republicans could go, look, she's going to fucking back the court. But it's such a non-committal non-answer that it doesn't inspire anyone on her side.
And who, as we have
her actual answer is that we should study it.
He is unfit to serve. Somebody who on January 20th, you can be sure, will spend full time, like we know, and we've seen the image mentally of him sitting in the dining room off of the Oval Office, watching for hours as people violently attack the Capitol. You can be sure, because he has said he would weaponize the Department of Justice to go after his political enemies, that you can look at a Donald Trump in the White House after January 20th, sitting in that Oval Office, plotting his revenge. He has talked about the enemies within. We haven't even raised that subject, Anderson.
You have every fucking answer.
He's talking about the American people. He's talking about journalists, judges, nonpartisan election officials. He has talked about, as John Kelly has talked about, can he send the military after peaceful protesters? And he's going to sit there unstable, unhinged, plotting his revenge, plotting retribution. Creating an enemies list. I'm going to tell you, my list will be a list of how I address and continue to address the issues you all raise.
There would be no town hall. Trump would be winning. Like, January 6th, no Roe v. Wade, no January 6th is like, this is not even a question.
The American people, and address some of the challenges that we continue to face.
But I just think, like, what would she be talking about for 70% of her answer?
She's going to be the immigrant mutilator.
Final decision.
Whoa.
Hi. First of all, go Birds. And hi I'm from Danville, California.
Hello.
But my question is, what is the proudest moment of your political career thus far, including when you were the AG?
hostage ribbon.
Oh, that's a great one. I've actually had a few.
What? How will this cause you not to be undecided? What's your proudest
Attorney
moment?
General of California,
Who's writing these questions?
What I named the Bureau of Children's
I'm
Justice.
fascinated by his hair.
And you may be familiar with that as a Californian.
He's a Zoomer, bro. They all got that.
It was because I believe that, frankly, we still have a lot to do in terms of policy that impacts children. And an investment in the children of our country is an investment in all of us and our future.
Thank you.
And that work has actually produced significant results. That has been a proud moment for me. It was a proud moment for me to do the work that we've been doing.
Okay, this is the one time I'm gonna be fair to Kamala, but like it's kind of a stupid question.
It's a stupid question, but she's answering it just the same as all the other questions.
That America,
you know, okay, I take it back. I think the appetizer question would kind of bang. Like at least it would like force her to be human. I think.
No, it would. She would find a way out.
As a public servant,
you know, who
knowing the
wasn't
impact
ordering
that we can
appetizers?
have.
The cops that
And
died on
I guess
January
that is
6th.
probably what
Donald Trump. The
motivates me
appetizers
most, 'cause
I
I
want
know
to
we can
talk
make a
about
difference.
is the
I
French
really
fries
do.
Donald Trump threw at the wall on
And
January 6th.
I do believe that the American people deserve
appetizers is something that we divide.
Hardworking.
But when we divide them, we
And,
share.
you know,
but
we'll
when
make
on
mistakes from time to
January
time.
6th, we were divided
But
and we
it's
didn't
focused
share.
on you. And I think that is so fundamental in this election.
Can someone run
So
a count of
fundamental.
things that Kamala thinks are
You
fundamental?
deserve a president. I believe the American
it's
people
like
deserve a
800
president
fucking
saying, look, let's
She
just
has
be
the concepts of
practical.
a plan that
Let's get
she's
things
starting to think
done.
of, by the way.
And
Which, but
let's not
like
be afraid of
liberals
having a
made
little
fun of
joy.
fucking liberals made fun of
To the
Donald Trump for the
point of, you
concepts
know,
of a
what
plan
gives
shit,
you-
and then like
what
Kamala
makes you
Harris is
feel
like,
good
we're gonna
about
do
your work.
studies.
Let's
We're gonna
do
start
it
this.
in a way that is grounded in optimism. You know, the thing that I think we all know about who we are as the American people. We are people who are ambitious. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We are inherently optimistic. Inherently optimistic. And I think people are exhausted with the idea that we're just going to be divided and angry.
They should give you fentanyl if you go to this.
Instead of working on the problems
No, they shut down the
and
border.
working together.
There's no more fentanyl coming in.
That's what motivates
No,
me. And
that's
what-
ironic.
You want to
No
know what's
one
really
needs
fucking
fentanyl
annoying?
more than people in the audience
You want to
here.
know what's really fucking annoying about that? The Biden administration, through like Narcan and a bunch of other like harm reduction initiatives, is actually for the first time ever lowered the number of fentanyl overdoses in the country. And these dipshits never bring it up. They never talk about
they're
it.
like ashamed of it.
They're so fucking stupid. It makes me so mad. I'm like, dude, just like whenever fentanyl comes up, you have to be like, oh, she's doing the Biden thing. She's talking to the fucking tax realtor. She's talking to the tax realtor.
The election, a lot of tough questions for the vice president there. It seemed as
like, dude, the question with the immigration should literally be the moment that you bring up like immigration and fentanyl in the same subject matter, be like 90% of the fucking, drug apprehensions at the border. This is the Department of Homeland Security's own numbers, happen at regular ports of entry. 90% are trafficked by American citizens. This is not an issue that migrants are contributing to. It's actually a very nefarious way that the Republicans try to lie about this issue. And having said that, if you want to talk about how these guys talk the talk but don't actually care about this stuff at all, my administration, alongside Joe Biden, lowered fentanyl overdoses for the first time in decades. So obviously, we do care about this shit. We are actually fucking doing something about it. They're not. They're just chirping about it, and they're using a real problem that has destroyed the fucking heartland to further divide you from your neighbor, to make you hate your fucking neighbor and make you be suspicious of your neighbor and make you feel like he's the one who's responsible for your uncle overdosing. It's stupid as fuck. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you have the facts on your fucking side, dumbass. Just use them. Like, there are things that this administration has done that are good, that you can use to your advantage to communicate how you will expand on some of the accomplishments of the former administration. I don't understand. Like, do they not have a single fucking analyst? Do they not have a single wonk? Do they not have a single fucking staffer that's like, hey, why don't we bring this stuff up when people bring up fentanyl?
Yeah. Well, there is an adjacent concept to crackpot realism that I think sort of characterizes definitely this campaign and a shitload of Democratic campaigns, really. Similar to crackpot realism is reckless caution. Like, being so overly cautious and so risk averse to taking any position at all, to even talk about things that the administration you're a part of has done and advertised itself doing, that you diminish your standing with voters by just appearing as nothing. You're so afraid of alienating everyone that you end up alienating them by just providing nothing. Providing no actual, like, policy pushback. Providing no actual, like, answer for any of these things. Just in the name of pure cautiousness. You end up at you end up with the same outcome as, like, you know, the most fantastical McGovern 1972 nightmare that every Democrat seems to have.
I like, this is yet another, this is the third time now, Trump referendum election. I'm losing my fucking mind, dude. And the scary part of this, if you are a Democrat, if you are a die-hard liberal, is that Americans are stupid and they don't remember how shitty it was when Trump was president. Some Americans literally look back at that and even remember it fondly, okay? So for that reason, it might resemble a 2016 style Trump election that favored Donald Trump greatly for that reason. This kind of, like, I'm going to be bipartisan. I'm going to work with the Republican Party over and over again, to a fucking group of undecided voters in Pennsylvania is so funny. Dog, they're undecided. If they're really actually undecided, you have to tell them how you differentiate from the other side, not how much you're going to run towards the other side. This is something that I will never understand. Republicans never do this. They never, ever, ever bring up bipartisan compromise. I never hear Republicans bring up bipartisan compromise. They keep saying over and over again, like, Democrats are pedophiles. They're freaks. They're monsters. They want to kill you. They want to kill your children. Like, they want to trans all your children. Okay? And meanwhile, she's like, Donald Trump is a fascist, and I'm going to compromise with this party. Donald Trump is a fascist, and I'm going to have people who are in his administration endorse me, and I'm going to talk about how sick that is. Like, it doesn't... I don't get it. Like, I don't know who, like, how much of the needle is moving here with this kind of, with these kinds of fucking sentiments. We can only look at the polls, and it seems like this kind of messaging is not fucking working, and that's precisely the reason why the polls have been slammed shut for the past couple of months, despite the fact that Kamala Harris has used multiple millions of dollars in key states from her ginormous fucking war coffer to literally take these shitty ass communicated lines and pump them into the fucking televised marketplaces over and over again. That, to me, says people hear it on TV and they go, I don't really like this.
Yeah, people.
That's it.
This message is reaching people. It's just resounding with a thud. I'm not sure the exact type of person they've tailored this message to. I think it's like a catch-all for, like, you know, Obama to Trump to Biden voters and, like, Mitt Romney Republicans and people like that. But, like, swing voters, no matter how, like, stupid or misinformed or whatever their concepts of American politics are, this doesn't move anyone.
Michael from Pennsylvania brought up a funny point. It's so funny that this is in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, because that's one of the 2 counties in PA that banned fracking. Yeah. They literally banned fracking there.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're going to drill, baby drill.